The stars belonged to the Velthak Dominion. For 3,000 years, their massive ships had ruled every corner of the galaxy. These ships were not made of metal like human vessels. They were grown from living crystal that could heal itself and shoot beams of pure energy. No enemy had ever defeated them in battle. From the great throne world called Nexus Prime, Emperor Thulvak controlled 10,000 star systems. His palace was built into a mountain of black stone, reaching high into the clouds. Every day, reports came from across the galaxy. New worlds discovered, new species found, new slaves added to the empire. The emperor sat on his crystal throne, reading these reports with cold eyes. To him, all other life forms were just numbers on a screen. Some were useful workers. Others were good fighters. Most were simply in the way, Your Majesty, said Admiral Taymin, walking into the throne room. His blue skin showed respect as he bowed low. We have found another system. A small yellow star with several planets. One has life. The Emperor barely looked up. What kind of life? They call themselves humans. They live on the third planet from their star. Our scouts say they are very primitive. They still use kinetic weapons and basic fusion drives. Their technology is at least 500 years behind ours. Taymin held out a data pad showing images from the human world called Earth. Cities of metal and glass, ships that moved slowly through space, weapons that fired simple bullets and rockets. How many of them? Asked the Emperor. About 8 billion on their home world. Maybe 2 billion more on nearby planets and space stations. They have spread to only 12 systems total. The Emperor finally smiled, but it was not a kind smile. Send the usual pacification fleet. 1 battle group should be enough. Add them to Sector 7 as manual laborers. Their world looks useful for mining. Yes, Your Majesty. Admiral Taymin bowed again. To him, this was just another routine job. The Dominion had conquered thousands of species. Humans would be no different. Far, away from Nexus Prime in the outer edge of human space, Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of his ship. The Earth Defense Force destroyer Determination was old and tired. Her hull had scratches from many small battles with pirates. Her engines made strange noises. Her weapons were simple compared to what other species used. But she was home to 847 human souls, and Captain Hyunwoo loved her like family. Captain, called out Communications Officer Dong Hyun from his station. We're getting a priority message from Earth Command. It's marked urgent. Hyunwoo walked over to read the message on the screen. His face went pale as he read the words. The message was short and terrible. Attention all ships. Alien contact confirmed. Large fleet approaching Sol system. Hostile intent confirmed. Earth requests all available vessels return immediately. Situation critical. End message, sir? Asked Dong Hyun. Should we set course for Earth? Hyunwoo stared at the message for a long time. The Determination was 6 months away from Earth, even at top speed. By the time they arrived, whatever was happening would be over. No, he said quietly. We stay here and wait for more news. The crew looked at each other with worry. They all had families on Earth. Parents, children, friends. But their captain was right. One old destroyer could not change the fate of their home world. 3 hours later, another message came. This one was even shorter. Sol system under attack. Defense fleets engaged. Enemy technology superior. Requesting backup from all colonies. Earth will not surrender. Then the messages stopped coming. Captain Hyunwoo called his senior officers to the bridge. Chief Engineer Hee-jin arrived first, her hands still dirty from working on the engines. Medical Officer Sung-min came next, followed by Tactical Officer Bo-ram. You've all seen the messages, Hyunwoo said. Earth is under attack by aliens. We don't know how bad it is, but it sounds very bad. We have to go back, said Bo-ram. We have to help them fight. With what? Asked Hee-jin. This ship is barely holding together. Our weapons are older than some of the crew. We'd be flying into a battle we can't win. Then what do we do? Asked Sung-min. Just sit here and wait? Before anyone could answer, the communication system made a sound. Another message was coming in. But this one was different. It was not from Earth Command. It was from Admiral Jin Ho, the man who had trained Captain Hunwoo years ago. The Admiral's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired and sad. Behind him, alarms were ringing and people were running. "This is Admiral Jin Ho to all human vessels outside the Sol system," he said. "Earth has fallen. The alien fleet is too strong. Our weapons barely scratch their ships. They have demanded our complete surrender." The Admiral paused, and explosions could be heard in the background. "We are going to keep fighting until the end. But I want you all to know something. These aliens think we are weak. They think we will give up easily. They are wrong. We may lose this battle, but we will not surrender our spirit. Tell the galaxy that humans died fighting. Tell them we were never slaves." The message ended with the sound of more explosions. Captain Hyunwoo and his officers stood in silence for a long time. Finally, Heejin spoke. "So what now, Captain?" Hyunwoo looked out at the stars through the bridge window. Somewhere out there, his people were dying. Somewhere out there, aliens were celebrating another easy victory. They thought humans were just another weak species to be conquered and forgotten. "Now we make them remember us," he said. "We make them wish they had never found Earth. We become the thing that keeps them awake at night." "Sir?" asked Dong Hyun. "We're going to war," said Captain Hyunwoo. "Not the kind of war they expect. Not the kind they're prepared for. We're going to show them what humans do when they have nothing left to lose." On the other side of the galaxy, on a prison ship heading to Nexus Prime, a young woman named Sujin sat in a small metal cell. She was a scientist who had been captured when the aliens first arrived at Earth's outer colonies. For days she had listened to her captors talking in their strange language. Slowly, she was beginning to understand their words. And what she learned made her very afraid. The aliens called themselves the Valthak Dominion. They had conquered thousands of worlds. They had enslaved hundreds of species, and now they planned to do something terrible to humanity. They did not just want to rule humans, they wanted to study them. They wanted to understand how human bodies worked. They wanted to change humans into something else, something that would serve the Dominion better. Sujin knew she had to escape. She had to warn someone. She had to find a way to fight back. But first, she had to survive. And in the cold metal cell of an alien prison ship, surrounded by creatures that saw her as nothing more than a test subject, survival seemed almost impossible. The Dominion had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They had never lost a war. They had never faced real resistance, but they had never fought humans before. And humans, as they were about to learn, did not surrender easily. Admiral Taemin stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the battle for Earth through his ship's sensors. What he saw made no sense to him. The human fleet was clearly losing. Their ships were slow and weak compared to Dominion vessels. Their weapons could barely damage the crystal hulls of his warships. By all logic, they should have surrendered hours ago. Instead, they kept fighting. "Admiral," called his communications officer. "The humans are sending another message. They refuse to surrender." Taemin shook his blue head. "How many of their ships have we destroyed?" 60% of their fleet, sir. But the remaining ships are still attacking us. They seem to be getting more desperate, not less." On the main screen, Taemin watched a small human destroyer ram itself into one of his cruisers. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire. The human ship was tiny compared to his vessel, but the explosion damaged his cruiser badly. "They are destroying themselves," said Taemin. "What kind of species does this?" His tactical officer pulled up data on the screen. "Sir, we're also getting reports from the surface. The humans on their planet are not surrendering either. They are fighting in their cities, even though our ground forces are much stronger." Taemin looked at the reports. Human soldiers were using their own buildings as weapons, bringing them down on Dominion troops. Civilians were making bombs from household items. Children were carrying messages between fighter groups. "How long until we control their planet?" asked Taemin. "At this rate, sir, maybe 6 months, maybe more. Every human seems to be a soldier. Now." The Admiral was quiet for a long time. In his 300 years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. Most species surrendered when they realized they could not win. The smart ones surrendered before the fighting even started. But humans seemed to fight harder when things got worse. Far away, Captain Hyunwoo received the last message from Earth's defense fleet. Admiral Jinho's face appeared on the screen one final time. The old man looked tired, but his eyes were still full of fire. "Hyunwoo, my boy," said the admiral, "this is the end for us here. But I need you to listen carefully. These aliens think they know us. They think we are weak because our technology is simple. They are wrong." Explosions grew louder in the background, but Admiral Jinho kept talking. "I've been studying their ships. Their weapons are powerful, but they fight like machines. They follow patterns. They expect their enemies to be logical. But humans, we are not always logical. We do things that don't make sense. And that might be our greatest weapon." The admiral paused as his ship shook from another hit. "Don't try to fight them the way they expect. Be unpredictable. Be human. Make them afraid of what we might do next. And Hyunwoo, tell the galaxy that we died as humans. Make them remember us." The message ended with the sound of Admiral Jinho's ship exploding. Captain Hyunwoo stood in silence for a long moment. His crew watched him, waiting for orders. Finally, he spoke. "Chief Engineer Hyejin, how long can we survive out here without resupply?" Hyejin checked her datapad. "Maybe 8 months, sir, if we're careful. Our food. Recyclers are working, but we need spare parts and fuel." Tactical Officer Boram, what kind of weapons do we have? "Standard missiles and kinetic guns, sir. Nothing special. We also have some mining charges left over from our last supply run." "Mining charges?" Hyunwoo thought about this. "How powerful are they?" "They're designed to break up asteroids, sir. Much more powerful than our regular weapons, but they're slow and hard to aim." "Perfect," said Hyunwoo. "Navigator Donghyun, plot a course to the shipping lanes between here and Dominion space. We're going hunting." "Sir?" asked Donghyun. "Hunting for what?" "Supply ships, scout vessels, anything that looks important." Hyunwoo turned to face his crew. The admiral was right. These aliens expect us to fight like they do. So we won't. We'll fight like pirates, like ghosts. We'll hit them when they don't expect it and disappear before they can hit back. Medical Officer Sungmin raised his hand. "Captain, what about the other human colonies? Shouldn't we try to warn them?" "We'll do that too," said Hyunwoo. "But first we need to show these aliens that conquering Earth was just the beginning of their problems." On the prison ship heading to Nexus Prime, Soo-jin had been listening to her guards for days. Her cell was next to a maintenance room where Dominion soldiers often came to rest. They talked freely, thinking no human could understand their language. But Soo-jin was a smart woman. She had always been good with languages, and the Dominion tongue was not as different from human speech as they thought. From their conversations, she learned terrible things. The Dominion was not just planning to enslave humanity. They wanted to study human bodies and minds. They wanted to understand why humans fought so hard. And then they wanted to use that knowledge to make other species fight harder for the Dominion. She also learned something else. There was another human on the ship, a young man named Min-soo who worked in the communications room. He had been captured from a human colony and was being forced to help translate human messages. Soo-jin knew she had to contact him. Together, they might be able to escape, or at least get a warning to other humans. Her chance came during the ship's sleep cycle. The guards were fewer at night and the corridors were darker. Soo-jin had been working on the lock of her cell for days, using a small piece of metal she had found. Finally, it clicked open. She moved quietly through the ship's corridors, following the path she had memorized from listening to the guards. The communication room was 3 levels up and 2 sections over. She found Min-soo alone at his station, looking sad and tired. He jumped when she appeared in the doorway. "Who are you?" he whispered in Korean. "My name is Soo-jin. I'm a scientist from Earth. We need to talk." Min-soo looked around nervously. "You shouldn't be here. If they catch you, they're going to kill all of us anyway," said Soo-jin. "But first, they want to study us. They want to understand what makes humans different from other species they've conquered. She quickly told him what she had learned from listening to the guards. Minsu's face went pale. "We have to warn someone," he said. "But who? Earth is gone. The colonies are probably next." "What about that ship?" asked Sujin. "The one the Dominion is looking for? I heard the guards talking about a human destroyer that's been attacking their supply lines." Minsu's eyes lit up. "The Determination. Yes, I've been monitoring their communications. They're still out there, still fighting. Can you contact them?" "Maybe, but it would be dangerous. If the Dominion finds out, they're going to find out. We escaped soon anyway," said Sujin. "We have nothing to lose." Minsu thought for a moment, then nodded. "You're right. Let me see what I can do." He began working at his communication station, using codes he had learned from intercepted human messages. It took him almost an hour, but finally he found the right frequency. "This is Minsu of the human colonies to any human ships listening. I repeat, this is Minsu. If you can hear this, we have important information about Dominion plans." They waited in the darkness, hoping someone would answer. After 10 minutes, a voice came through the static. "This is Captain Hyunwoo of the Earth Defense Force ship Determination. Minsu, where are you?" Sujin felt tears in her eyes. They were not alone after all. Somewhere in the darkness of space, humans were still fighting. "Captain," whispered Minsu into the radio. "We're on a Dominion prison ship heading to their capital world. We've learned something terrible. They don't just want to conquer us. They want to study us. They want to understand why humans fight differently from other species." "How long until you reach their capital?" asked Captain Hyunwoo. 2 weeks, maybe 3. "Can you escape?" Sujin took the radio. "Captain, this is Sujin. Escape might be possible, but that's not the important thing. The important thing is what we've learned. The Dominion has never faced a species like us before. They don't understand human psychology. That's our advantage." "What do you mean?" "They expect logical behavior. They expect surrender when the situation is hopeless. But humans don't always do what's logical. We do what's right, even when it's impossible." Captain Hyunwoo was quiet for a moment. "Sujin, can you keep sending us information about their movements, their plans?" "We'll try, Captain, but be careful. They're sending their entire 4th Fleet to hunt you down. Admiral Taemin is very angry that one human ship is making him look foolish." "Let him come," said Captain Hyunwoo. "We'll show him what one human ship can do." The transmission ended just as alarm bells began ringing throughout the prison ship. Guards were running through the corridors, searching for the escaped prisoner. Sujin and Minsu looked at each other. They had done what they could. Now they had to survive long enough to do more. "Back to your cell," whispered Minsu. "I'll try to contact them again when I can." Sujin nodded and disappeared into the darkness. Behind her, she could hear the guards getting closer, but for the first time since her capture, she felt hope. The humans were not finished yet, and the Dominion was about to learn that conquering Earth had been the easy part. The hard part was dealing with the humans who were still free. Captain Hyunwoo stood in the darkness of space, watching a Dominion supply convoy through his ship's sensors. 3 large cargo ships moved slowly between the stars, protected by 2 escort cruisers. The cargo ships carried food, fuel, and weapons for Dominion forces fighting on Earth. "How many crew on those ships?" he asked quietly. Tactical Officer Bo-Ram checked her readings. "About 50 on each cargo ship, maybe 200 on each cruiser. The cargo ships have weak shields and no heavy weapons." "And what are they carrying?" "Medical supplies, replacement parts for weapons, and..." Bo-Ram paused. "Captain, one of those ships is carrying human prisoners." Hyunwoo felt anger rise in his chest. More of his people being taken to Dominion worlds as slaves. "Which ship?" "The middle cargo vessel. I'm reading about 300 human life signs. Then we save them." Hyunwoo turned to his crew. "This is what we're going to do. Chief Engineer Hyejin, can you make our ship look like a damaged Dominion vessel?" Hyejin smiled. Over the past 6 months, she had become very creative with their limited resources. "Give me 2 hours, Captain. I can change our energy readings and make us look like we need help." Good. Boram, load those mining charges into missile tubes 1 and 2. Set them for remote detonation. Navigator Dong Hyun, plot an approach that puts us between the cargo ships and their escorts. The plan was simple, but dangerous. The determination would pretend to be a damaged Dominion ship asking for help. When the convoy stopped to assist, they would attack the escort cruisers first, then rescue the prisoners. 2 hours later, they began their approach. Heejin had done excellent work. Their ship now looked and sounded like a Dominion patrol vessel with engine problems. Dominion convoy, this is patrol ship Velkar, said communications officer Dong Hyun in the Dominion language that Sujin had taught them. We have engine failure and request assistance. The convoy leader responded quickly. Patrol ship Velkar, this is convoy commander Thuldok. We will render assistance, reduce speed, and prepare for boarding. Perfect, whispered Captain Hyun-woo. They're doing exactly what we hoped. The convoy slowed down and changed formation. The 2 escort cruisers moved closer to the determination while the cargo ships hung back. This was exactly what Hyun-woo wanted. Now, he said. Boram fired. Both mining charges at the nearest escort cruiser. The Dominion ship's shields were down because they thought they were helping a friendly vessel. The mining charges hit the cruiser's hull and exploded with the force of small nuclear bombs. The cruiser broke apart in a ball of fire and metal. The second escort cruiser began to turn and raise its shields, but it was too late. The Determination's regular weapons opened fire, targeting the cruiser's engines and weapon systems. Within minutes, the second escort was drifting helplessly in space. Target the cargo ship engines, ordered Hyun-woo. Disable them, but don't destroy them. We need those prisoners alive. The 3 cargo ships tried to run, but they were too slow. The Determination caught up with them easily and disabled their engines with precise shots. Dong Hyun, open a channel to all 3 ships. Channel open, Captain. Dominion vessels, this is Captain Hyun-woo of the Earth Defense Force ship Determination. Surrender now and prepare to transfer your human prisoners. Any resistance will result in the destruction of your ships. The cargo ship captains were not soldiers. They were transport crew, not used to fighting. After a few minutes of discussion, they agreed to surrender. The rescue operation took 4 hours. Medical officer Sungmin worked with volunteers to help the freed prisoners who were weak and scared but alive. Among them was a young resistance fighter named Jae-sung, who had been captured during the fighting on Mars. Captain, said Jae-sung when he was brought to the bridge, there are still humans fighting in the asteroid belt. Small groups, maybe 1,000 people total. They have some ships and weapons, but they need help. Where exactly? Hidden bases in the asteroid field beyond Mars. We've been hitting Dominion patrols and rescue missions, but it's hard without good intelligence. Hyun-woo thought about this. Jae-sung, can you get us in contact with these groups? Yes, sir, I know their communication codes. This was the beginning of something bigger. Over the next 12 months, the Determination became the center of a growing resistance network. They attacked supply convoys, rescued prisoners, and gathered intelligence from Sujin and Minsu, who continued to send secret messages from their prison ship. Each attack taught them more about Dominion tactics and weaknesses. Boram developed new fighting methods that used their ship's small size and speed against larger enemy vessels. They learned to use asteroid fields and nebula clouds to hide from Dominion sensors. Most importantly, they learned that the Dominion had never fought an enemy like this before. Captain, said Boram during one of their planning sessions, I've been studying their battle patterns. The Dominion always fights the same way. They use overwhelming force in direct attacks. They expect their enemies to either surrender or fight back in predictable ways. What do you mean? Look at this, Boram showed him data from their recent battles. Every time we do something unexpected, they take longer to respond. When we used cargo containers as decoy ships, it took them 20 minutes to figure out what was happening. When we attacked from inside an asteroid field, they didn't know how to chase us. Hyun-woo studied the data. They're not stupid, but they're rigid? Exactly. They follow rules and patterns. But humans don't always follow rules, especially when we're desperate. This insight changed everything. The Determination began using tactics that made no logical sense but worked anyway. They pretended to retreat, then turned around and attacked when the Dominion ships gave chase. They used fake distress signals to lure enemy patrols into traps. They even convinced one Dominion captain that his own ship was under attack by using fake sensor readings. Word of their activities spread throughout the galaxy. Other species that had been conquered by the Dominion began to whisper about the human ship that fought impossible battles and won. But the Dominion was not sitting still. Admiral Taemin had been assigned to hunt down the Determination with his entire Fourth Fleet. What had started as a simple police action was becoming a matter of imperial pride. "This is impossible," Admiral Taemin said to his staff officers. "One primitive ship with outdated weapons is making our entire fleet look foolish. How are they doing this?" His intelligence officer, a tall alien with gray skin, pulled up data on the main screen. "Admiral, we've analyzed their attack patterns. They don't follow any known military doctrine. Their tactics change constantly, and they often do things that put them at greater risk for no apparent reason." "Give me an example." 3 days ago, they attacked a convoy that was heavily defended. The logical choice would have been to wait for a better opportunity. Instead, they used the convoy's own cargo as weapons against the escort ships. They turned a supply of building materials into improvised bombs. Admiral Taemin stared at the data. "Are they insane?" "I don't think so, sir. I think they're creative. They see possibilities that we miss because we think logically about combat." For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Taemin felt something he had never experienced before: uncertainty. How do you defeat an enemy that doesn't follow the rules of warfare? On the prison ship approaching Nexus Prime, Sujin and Minsu continued their secret work. They had established regular contact with the Resistance Network, passing along information about Dominion fleet movements and military plans. "Sujin," whispered Minsu during one of their midnight meetings, "I intercepted something important today. The Dominion is moving a huge fleet to hunt for Captain Hyunwoo. Admiral Taemin has been given unlimited resources." "How many ships?" "Over 300, including some of their most advanced warships." Sujin felt her heart sink. The Determination was tough and clever, but it was still just one ship against the might of the Dominion Empire. "We have to warn them," she said. "I already tried, but our communication window is getting smaller. The closer we get to Nexus Prime, the harder it becomes to send messages without being detected. Then we need to try something different." Sujin had been thinking about this for weeks. "Minsu, what if we didn't just send messages? What if we did something that would help them directly?" "Like what?" "You have access to the ship's navigation systems, right? For translation work?" "Yes, but I can only read them, not change them." "What if you could change them? What if we could make this prison ship go somewhere other than Nexus Prime?" Minsu stared at her. That would be almost impossible. And if we're caught, they kill us. If we do nothing, they kill us anyway, just more slowly. Sujin leaned closer. "But if we succeed, we might be able to do more than just send warnings. We might be able to strike a real blow against them." Minsu was quiet for a long time. Finally, he nodded. "What do you have in mind?" Sujin smiled. It was not a nice smile. "I have an idea. But first, we need to contact Captain Hyunwoo one more time. And then we're going to do something that the Dominion will never expect." "What's that?" Sujin worked quietly in the darkness of the prison ship's maintenance tunnels. For 3 weeks, she had been crawling through the narrow spaces between the ship's walls, learning how everything worked. The Dominion had built their ships to be efficient, but they had never thought about security inside the walls. Minsu met her at their usual spot near the power distribution center. He looked nervous and tired. "I got the information you wanted," he whispered, handing her a data pad. "The ship's course, engine specifications, and the location of Nexus Prime. But Sujin, what you're planning? It's suicide." Sujin looked at the data. The prison ship was huge, almost the size of a small city. It carried 5,000 prisoners, from dozens of different species, plus a crew of 800 Dominion soldiers and workers. Most importantly, it was heading directly for the Dominion capital world. Maybe, she said. But if we do nothing, we die anyway. And our deaths won't mean anything. But if we succeed, we show the galaxy that humans don't just fight back. We fight smart. Sujin pointed to the ship's engine design on the data pad. Look at this. Their fusion reactors are powerful, but they're not designed for overload. The safety systems are too good. That's a bad thing. Not if you know how to turn good safety systems into weapons. Sujin had been studying the ship's technical manuals for weeks. Minsu, can you send one more message to Captain Hyunwoo? It's very dangerous now. We're only 2 days from Nexus Prime. But yes, I think I can do it once more. Good. Tell him this. The package will be delivered on schedule. Look for the new star in 2 days. Minsu stared at her. Sujin, what are you planning to do? I'm going to give the Dominion a lesson they'll never forget. And I'm going to make sure Captain Hyunwoo knows where to find their capital world. Far away, Captain Hyunwoo received Sujin's final message. He read it 3 times before he understood what she meant. Chief Engineer Hyejin, he called. Come look at this. Hyejin read the message and went pale. Captain, is she saying what I think she's saying? A new star. That means she's planning to overload the prison ship's reactors near Nexus Prime. The explosion will be visible from space. That's impossible. The safety systems won't allow it. Unless you know how to disable them from the inside. Hyunwoo looked at his crew. They had been fighting for 18 months now. They were tired, their ship was damaged, and they had lost friends along the way. But they had also accomplished something amazing. Sir, said Navigator Donghyun, if Sujin succeeds, we'll know the exact location of the Dominion capital. We could finish what she started, said Hyunwoo quietly. Tactical Officer Bo Ram looked up from her station. Captain, with respect, that's insane. Nexus Prime is probably the most heavily defended world in the galaxy. We're just one ship. Yes, said Hyunwoo. But we're not just any ship anymore. We're the ship that the entire Dominion fears. We're the ghost that haunts their dreams. And maybe that's enough. Medical Officer Sungmin raised his hand. Captain, even if we could reach Nexus Prime, what could we possibly do there? We can't conquer a whole planet. We don't need to conquer it, said Hyunwoo. We just need to reach it. Sometimes the message is more important than the victory. Yo. Nexus Prime Emperor Thulvak was growing very angry. Reports from across the galaxy told the same story. The human ship was still out there, still fighting, still making his forces look weak. Admiral Taemin, he said coldly, you have had 18 months to capture one primitive vessel. Explain your failure. Admiral Taemin stood before the crystal throne trying to find words. Your Majesty, this human ship, it doesn't fight like anything we've encountered before. They use tactics that make no logical sense, but somehow they work. Are you telling me that our superior technology and training are useless against one old destroyer? Not useless, Your Majesty, but different. They force us to think in ways we're not used to. Every time we adapt to their tactics, they change again. The Emperor leaned forward on his throne. I don't want explanations, I want results. Take whatever ships you need. Use the entire fleet if necessary. But bring me that human captain's head. Yes, Your Majesty. But there's something else. We're receiving reports that other species are starting to resist us more actively. The humans seem to have inspired them. Emperor Thulvak felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Doubt. For 3,000 years, the Dominion had ruled through fear and superior technology. No one had ever successfully challenged their authority for this long. Double the security around Nexus Prime, he ordered. If these humans are foolish enough to come here, I want to be ready. On the prison ship, Sujin made her final preparations. She had spent days modifying the safety systems in the engine room, using techniques she had learned as a scientist. The changes were small and hidden, but they would have a big effect. When the ship dropped out of hyperspace near Nexus Prime, the modified systems would cause the fusion reactors to overload. The explosion would destroy the ship and everything around it, including several Dominion orbital stations. More importantly, It would send a message that could be seen from anywhere in the system. The humans were not finished. They were still fighting, and they would never surrender. Sujin met Minsu one last time in the communication room. "It's done," she said. "When we drop out of hyperspace in 6 hours, the reactors will overload automatically. Nothing can stop it now." Minsu looked sad but determined. "Sujin, I want you to know, it's been an honor working with you." "The honor was mine." Sujin looked out at the stars through a small window. "Minsu, do you think Captain Hyunwoo will really try to reach Nexus Prime? I think he'll do whatever he thinks is right. That's what humans do." "Good. Then maybe our deaths will mean something after all." They stood together in the quiet communication room, two humans far from home, preparing to die for something bigger than themselves. 6 hours later, the prison ship Velthana dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Nexus Prime system. For a few minutes, everything seemed normal. The ship began its approach to the capital world, just like hundreds of other vessels that arrived every day. Then the fusion reactors began to overload. At first, the ship's crew thought it was a malfunction. They tried to shut down the reactors, manually, but Sujin's modifications had disabled all the safety controls. The reactors continued to build up energy, far beyond their design limits. By the time the crew realized what was happening, it was too late to stop it. The Velthana exploded. With the force of a small star, the blast destroyed 3 orbital defense stations and damaged several Dominion warships that were too close. The explosion was so bright that it could be seen from the surface of Nexus Prime, even in daylight. On the surface, Emperor Thulvak felt the ground shake beneath his palace. He ran to his balcony and looked up at the sky where a new star burned in the darkness. "What was that?" he demanded. His advisors quickly brought him reports. A prison ship had exploded in orbit. 5,000 prisoners and 800 crew members were dead. The explosion had damaged critical orbital infrastructure. But the worst part was not the physical damage. The worst part was what the explosion meant. The humans had struck at the heart of the Dominion Empire. They had reached the one place that was supposed to be absolutely safe, and they had done it using one of the Dominion's own ships. Across the galaxy, the story spread quickly. The humans had turned a prison ship into a weapon. They had lit a new star in the sky above the Dominion capital. They had shown that nowhere was beyond their reach. In hidden bases and secret meeting places, other conquered species began to whisper. If the humans could do this, what else was possible? Admiral Taemin stood on his flagship's bridge, watching the debris from the explosion drift past his ship. He finally understood what he was fighting against. The humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were an idea. The idea that freedom was worth any sacrifice. The idea that even the mighty Dominion could be challenged. And ideas, as he was beginning to learn, were much harder to destroy than ships. Somewhere in the darkness of space, Captain Hyunwoo saw the new star burning in the distance. He knew what it meant. Sujin and Minsu had succeeded. They had found Nexus Prime and marked it with their sacrifice. Now it was his turn. "Set course for Nexus Prime," he ordered quietly. "Sir?" asked Navigator Donghyun. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. Sujin and Minsu showed us the way. Now we finish what they started." The determination turned toward the Dominion capital, a single, human warship heading into the heart of an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. The final battle was about to begin. Ever since the prison ship explosion, the entire planet was on high alert. Emperor Thulvak had ordered every available ship to patrol the system, looking for more human attacks. So when the sensors detected a single ship dropping out of hyperspace, at the edge of the system, every Dominion officer knew exactly what it was. "Your Majesty," said Admiral Taemin, his voice tight with tension. "The human ship has arrived. The determination is here." Emperor Thulvak stood up from his crystal throne. For the first time in his long life, he felt something like fear. Not of death. He had lived for over 1,000 years and was not afraid to die. But fear of what this moment meant. How many ships do we have in the system? He asked. Over 800, Your Majesty. Every vessel that could reach Nexus Prime in time. The humans have no chance of victory. Then why am I not relieved? The Emperor walked to the great window of his throne room and looked up at the stars. Admiral, this human captain, what does he hope to accomplish here? Admiral Taemin was quiet for a moment. Over the past 18 months, he had studied human tactics carefully. He had learned to think like they did, at least a little. I think, Your Majesty, that victory is not his goal. Then what is? I think he wants to be remembered. Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the Determination, looking at the massive fleet arrayed against him. His ship's sensors showed 800 Dominion vessels moving to intercept them. Cruisers, battleships, carriers, the entire might of the galaxy's most powerful empire. Well, said Chief Engineer He-jin with a tired smile, we've certainly gotten their attention. The crew was quiet but not afraid. They had been preparing for this moment for months. Every system on the ship had been modified, improved, or turned into a weapon. They had nothing left to lose and everything to prove. Tactical Officer Bo-ram, said Captain Hyunwoo. Are our special modifications ready? Yes, sir. The mining charges are loaded into every torpedo tube. The engine overload system is standing by. And Hyejin's surprise is ready to deploy. Good. Navigator Dong-hyun, take us toward the planet, best possible speed. Sir, we'll never reach orbit. They'll destroy us long before then. Maybe. But we're going to try anyway. The Determination began its final approach to Nexus Prime. As it moved deeper into the system, the Dominion fleet closed in from all sides. It looked like a single minnow swimming toward a school of sharks. Incoming transmission, said Communications Officer Dong-hyun. It's Admiral Taemin. Put him on screen. Admiral Taemin's blue face appeared on the main display. He looked tired and sad, like a man who had seen too much war. Captain Hyunwoo, he said. I am Admiral Taemin of the 4th Fleet. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender now, and I promise you and your crew will be treated with honor. Hyunwoo smiled. It was not a happy smile, but it was not bitter either. Admiral Taemin, I've heard a lot about you. You're the one who's been chasing us all this time. I am, and I want you to know. I have learned to respect your skills as a warrior. But this is the end. You cannot win here. Admiral, with respect, you still don't understand us. We didn't come here to win. We came here to be human. What does that mean? It means we do what's right even when it's impossible. It means we never surrender even when we're beaten. And it means we make sure that everyone in the galaxy remembers what happened here. Captain Hyunwoo turned to his crew. Open a channel. To all frequencies. I want every ship, every planet, every species in this galaxy to hear this. Dong-hyun worked at his station. Channel open, Captain. Broadcasting on all frequencies. Hyunwoo stepped forward and began to speak. His voice was calm and clear, carrying across space to millions of listeners. This is Captain Hyunwoo of the Earthship Determination. We are the last free humans in this galaxy. Our world is gone. Our people are enslaved. Our fleets are destroyed. But we are still here. On planets across the galaxy, in hidden rebel bases and slave camps, beings of dozens of species stopped what they were doing to listen. The Dominion thinks they have won. They think they have broken us. They are wrong. You cannot break something that refuses to bend. You cannot defeat something that will not surrender. The Dominion fleet began to open fire. Energy beams and missiles filled the space around the Determination. But the human ship kept flying toward Nexus Prime, dodging and weaving through the attacks with impossible skill. We came here today to deliver a message, not just to the Dominion, but to every species they have conquered. The message is simple. Resistance is possible. Freedom is worth fighting for. And no empire, no matter how powerful, can last forever. If its people refuse to be slaves. A missile hit the Determination's hull, tearing a hole in the armor. But the ship kept flying. Some of you listening to this have been slaves for hundreds of years. Some of you have forgotten what freedom feels like. But it's not too late. The Dominion is not as strong as they want you to believe. They are afraid, They are afraid of one old human ship because it reminds them that their power depends on your obedience. Another hit, this time to the engines. The ship shuddered but did not stop. The Dominion ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years because no one ever said no to them. Well, we're saying no. We said no when they came to Earth. We said no when they captured our people. And we're saying no now, here, in orbit around their capital world. The determination broke through the first line of Dominion ships. Impossibly, incredibly, the single human destroyer was fighting its way toward Nexus Prime. On the planet's surface, billions of beings watched the battle on their screens. They saw the small human ship dancing between the massive Dominion vessels, striking back with weapons that should have been useless against such powerful enemies. But Captain Hyunwoo was not finished speaking. To the Dominion leadership, we want you to know this. You have awakened something you cannot control. Humanity will not go quietly into slavery, and neither will any other species that remembers what freedom means. You wanted to rule the galaxy? Then rule it in fear, because we will never stop fighting you. Emperor Thulvak watched from his palace as the human ship somehow reached the planet's upper atmosphere. It was impossible, but it was happening. One small vessel had fought through 800 of his best ships. And to our fellow humans, wherever you are, whatever they have done to you, remember this moment. Remember that humans reached the heart of the Dominion Empire. Remember that we never surrendered. And when your chance comes to fight back, take it. Make them remember us. The determination was falling apart now. Half its weapons were gone. Its engines were failing and fires burned throughout the ship. But it was still flying, still fighting, still broadcasting. This is our final message to the galaxy, said Captain Hyunwoo as his ship entered orbit around Nexus Prime. We are Captain Hyunwoo and the crew of the Determination. We lived as free humans, we fought as free humans, and we will die as free humans. The Dominion can destroy our ship, but they cannot destroy what we represent. Chief Engineer Hee Jin appeared at his side. Her face was covered in smoke and her uniform was torn, but she was smiling. Captain, she said. It's time. Hyunwoo nodded. He turned back to the communication system. To everyone listening, freedom is not free, but it is always worth the price. Remember us. Remember Earth. And never ever surrender. Hyjin activated the final modification she had been working on for months. The Determination's fusion reactors began to overload, just like Sujin had, done with the prison ship. But this time, the explosion would be even bigger. The ship's hull began to glow as the reactors built up impossible amounts of energy. The Dominion fleet pulled back, but it was too late to stop what was happening. Captain Hyunwoo looked around at his crew one last time. They were all still at their stations, still doing their jobs, even though they knew they had only minutes to live. It has been an honor serving with all of you, he said quietly. The honor was ours, Captain, replied Chief Engineer Hyjin. The Determination exploded like a new sun over Nexus Prime. The blast was so bright it could be seen from neighboring star systems. The electromagnetic pulse knocked out power across half the planet. The shockwave shattered windows in the Emperor's palace and toppled towers in the capital city. But the real damage was not physical. The real damage was to the idea that the Dominion was invincible. Across the galaxy, beings who had lived in slavery for generations looked up at the stars and whispered a single word: hope. Emperor Thulvak stood in his ruined throne room looking at the crater where part of his capital had been. Admiral Taemin brought him damage reports, but he waved them away. Your Majesty, said the Admiral, we should prepare for more attacks. This may be the beginning of a larger rebellion. The Emperor was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. Admiral, in your honest opinion, can we stop what has started here today? Admiral Taemin thought carefully before answering. No, Your Majesty, I don't think we can. The humans have shown the galaxy that we can be defeated, that we can be hurt. Other species will remember this and act on it. Then we rule a galaxy that no longer fears us.